1722 and 1736. The fort would house a garrison of 500 men and is one of the finest in existence. The chapel dedicated to Saint Anthony of Padua, like the fort damaged during the war, is also a work of art. If you look at the fort leading up to the entrance, you can see some very low steps. These were purposely built so low because the knights used to wear heavy suits of armor. If the steps had been any steeper, it would have been difficult and tiring to climb them. Today, the fort is used as a yacht club. To our right-hand side, you can see the town of Taj Beach. Taj Beach is the corruption of the Maltese word "spiek", meaning fishing nets. Fishermen used to stretch their fishing nets to dry along the shore. That is how the town got its name. Most of the foreign embassies can be found here. You can spot some of the different embassies from their flags. Up to about 20 years ago, the area of Taj Beach was a very expensive area property-wise. In fact, some of the beautiful aristocratic houses you can see dates back to the 18th century. When the British came to Malta, they found a great number of iron cannons on the island, which had been used in 1565 by the Knights of St. John. Having no further use for them, they brought them down to our harbours and used as bollards to tie their ships to. There are about 300 of the bollards along the coast of this harbour and the Grand Harbour. You can see a few of them onto the right-hand side. are now entering the third creek, Imsida Creek. Imsida is the corruption of the Maltese word Imsida, meaning the fishing village. Dominating Imsida Creek is the parish church, which is dedicated to Saint Joseph the Worker. Here is also the extension of the yacht marina, which can accommodate 700 yachts. We are now cruising by the birthing place of Malta's battleships and aircraft carriers. Well, these are Malta's patrol boats run by the armed forces of Malta. Amongst other duties, they must ensure that no foreign fishing vessels enter Maltese territorial waters and attend to any kind of travel out at sea. We are also cruising by Floriana, the suburb of Valletta, with a population of over 3,000. It is named after its designer, the military architect Peter Paul Floriani. We are also cruising by Malta's capital city Valletta, which is built on the peninsula of Shiberas. That splendid town, white like a dream's house and water spot, described Valletta during a visit in the year 1831. Its palaces, magnificent churches, and massive fortifications have altered little over the years, and it remains as a fine example of a fortified city of the Renaissance. It was founded by the French Grandmaster Jean Parisot de la Valette following the Great Siege of 1565. Valletta covers an area of 915 meters by 640 meters and is surrounded by 2.5 kilometers of solid bastions. Amongst other places of interest one can find in the city St. John's Cathedral, the National Museum of Fine Arts, the Manuel Theatre, Fort St. Elmo, the Grand Master's Palace now used by the President of Malta, St. Paul's Anglican Cathedral, and the Burgess of the Knights. The fort was originally built in the 15th century and later enlarged by the Knights of St. John. Fort St. Elmo bore the brunt of the first Turkish attacks during the Great Siege of 1565. It was also the first fort to be bombed by the enemy aircraft during the Second World War. One of its two small chapels is dedicated to St. Elmo, patron saint of seamen. Today this fort houses the War Museum and the Police Academy. fortified walls with green doorways and a very long balcony was the Hospital of the Knights, known as the Knights Hall and later as the Sacred Infirmary. It was built in 1575 by an unknown architect and is believed to the longest unsupported ceiling in Europe, which is 153 meters long. It could accommodate 2,000 patients in times of emergency. Nowadays it has been converted into the Mediterranean Conference Center. Above the fortification walls again, further along the bastions, you can see some arches, which make part of the lower Baracca Gardens. Here we have a monument dedicated to Sir Alexander Paul, who did so much to aid the Maltese in their uprising against the French. In front of these gardens you can see a monument with a bell inside. This was built to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the George Cross. It was commemorated by Queen Elizabeth in May 1992. High above the fortification walls you can see some more arches, which this time make part of the upper Baracca Gardens. This is where you should go for the best view of the Grand Harbour and the three old cities. These gardens used to be the place where the Italian knights came to practice. In the 18th century they were transformed as gardens for the public. Along the shore is the old customs house. That's the building with green doors and windows. Attached to the upper Baracca Gardens coming into view, you can see the other side of the ditch, which separates Valletta from its suburb Floriana. Concentrated zone in Malta. Marsa is a word derived from the Phoenicians, meaning a harbour. We have several other harbours in Malta and in Europe bearing this name. For instance, in Malta we have the Marsa Mshettu harbour, the one we visited before. South side there is Marsa Schlock and Marsa Scala. In Gozo there is Marsa al Forn. In Sicily there is Marsalam, and in France there is Marseille. is 4 stories deep and can accommodate super tankers of up to 320,000 tons, meaning any ship passing the Suez Canal can be repaired here. Dock number 6 is also the biggest dry dock that we have in Malta. We are now entering into the French Creek, known as such because it was here that Napoleon set anchorage in 1798 on the excuse of needing freshwater supplies. By that time, the Order of St. John had become weak and put up hardly resistance. In fact, the French took over and ruled Malta for 2 years and 2 months. In 1938, the number of ships comprising the British Mediterranean fleet was around 50, and during the war years the number of dockyard workers reached the figure of 2,000. The dockyard was of course repeatedly attacked by Axis aircraft. The Royal Navy relinquished the dockyard in 1959, and the dry docks are now run by the civil government on commercial lines. It was also here that the aircraft carrier HMS Illustrious fought her fiercest battle for survival. On the 16th and the 19th of January 1941, renewed determined attacks by 100 enemy aircraft were made on the Illustrious, which was again hit. Thanks to the island's anti-aircraft gunners and the skill of the dockyard workers, Illustrious survived. We are also cruising by docks 2 and 3. It was inside dock number 2 that the HMS Jersey was first bombed while it was in for repairs. As you can see, dock number 3 on our right hand side is now reserved for the super yachts and can be covered. Keeping constant watch on the activities in the harbour. The Maltese have a proverb which when translated means the air has eyes and the wall have ears. In the middle there is also the carving of the famous fleur-de-lis mark, which is the coat of arms of the Grand Master Claude de la Seigne, founder